If you're an actor working on Benedick's This Can Be No Trick monologue from Much Ado About Nothing, then you are in the right place because I'm going to give you everything you need to take it from page to stage. We're going to talk about the context, what all the lines mean, and at the end I'm going to give you some tips that can help you make it your own, which is very important. If you don't know me, I'm Sarah. This is Shakespeare with Sarah. Let's start with a reading of the monologue so you can hear how it all comes together. But of course, never copy anyone else. You need to make it your own, or otherwise it's going to be rubbish acting. Let's do it. This can be no trick. The conference was sadly born. They have the truth of this from Hero. They seem to pity the lady. It seems her affections have their full bent. Love me. Why, it must be requited. I hear how I am censured. They say I will bear myself proudly if I perceive the love come from her. They say too that she will rather die than give any sign of affection. I did never think to marry. I must not seem proud. Happy are they that can hear their detractions and put them to mending. They say the lady is fair, 'tis a truth, I can bear them witness. And virtuous, 'tis so, I cannot reprove it. And wise, but for loving me. By my troth, it is no addition to her wit, nor a great argument of her folly, for I will be horribly in love with her. I may chance have some odd quirks and remnants of wit broken on me because I have railed so long against marriage, but doth not the appetite alter? A man loves the meat in his youth that he cannot endure in his age. Shall quips and sentences and these paper bullets of the brain awe a man from the career of his humor? No, the world must be peopled. When I said I would die a bachelor, I did not think I should live till I were married. Here comes Beatrice. By the stage is a fair lady. I do spy some marks of love in her. So it is a really, really fun monologue. I'm going to tell you all about, how to find the comedy and all that sort of thing at the end. But let's first just break down the context in case you don't know what's happening. If you know the play, then just skip ahead to the next chapter where I'll do the line-by-line breakdown. Okay, so in this context, there's been what's called the gulling scene, which basically means tricking. And his friends have decided that he should fall in love with Beatrice. They did have a little fling before, it didn't work out, and they're always going at each other. It is the original rom-com, really. Maybe not original, but it's one of the first best rom-coms. And their friends are just trying to get them to hook up, basically. And so they planted themselves nearby and was like, oh, are you sure that she likes him? Really? Oh, it sounds like she's having a really hard time and he's going to be really mean if she says anything, so no wonder she's having such a hard time. So he's just sat through all of this and gone, oh man, this woman loves me. And there's usually a lot of humor in that scene as well where he, falls over or makes noises and they're like, oh my God, this guy, because they know that he's listening, they're doing it on purpose. And meanwhile, the woman, Beatrice's friends, are also doing the same thing to her because they're trying to set them up. So that very first line is in itself a gag because the whole audience knows that it is a trick. And the fact that Benedick doesn't get that it's a trick is just dramatic irony, right? Okay, so with that in mind, let's go on to the line-by-line breakdown. Just as I explained, this can be no trick. It's a gag. The audience knows it's definitely a trick. So you have to really commit to the fact that it definitely can't be a trick. That's where the comedy lies, is investing in how much he believes that it's not a trick. It definitely is not. The conference was sadly born. They have the truth of this from Hero. Conference just being they're meeting together. These guys are hanging out together. And sadly usually means serious. And sadly born just means it was seriously undertaken. It had a serious vibe when they were meeting and chatting about that stuff. So it sounded real. And they heard it from Hero, so it must be right. Hero is Beatrice's cousin, and they are sisters, basically. So they tell each other everything. So of course she would know. They seem to pity the lady. That basically means what it sounds like. They feel sorry for her because she likes him and he's been a bit of a jerk. So this is a moment of reflection for him. Oh man, I've caused suffering for this person. So much so that people are commenting on it. Love me, why? It must be requited. Now, there's a gag here that is sometimes played that some people go, love me, why? And then the second part, it must be requited. You can do it that way. That's, you can have fun with the text. It's okay to take liberties. But even generally this idea of it has love me, question mark. He's going, really? Like there's a moment of reflection here. And there's also a decision that's made. It must be requited, like, okay, I have to give it back, right? So really make sure that we see those decisions. And I talk about this in my video that's on soliloquies, actually. So I'll link that here and there and at the end, just so you can go into that will really help you out as well, because this is a soliloquy. He's alone on stage right now. I hear how I am censured. So that just means like I'm being judged. Censured in this case just means like I'm being judged by them. I've listened to what they've said about me and it was kind of not very good. They say I will bear myself proudly if I perceive the love come from her. So they think that he's going to be a jerk about it if he knows that she likes him, basically. They say too that she will rather die than give any sign of affection. So he's just kind of reflecting on, okay, so she really doesn't want to admit that she likes him. She doesn't want to show him. She doesn't want to tell him. So he's reflecting on, well, okay, well, why might that be? And poor lady. So you need to have opinions as you go through, like, how does he feel about that? Is he like kind of proud, or is he like, oh man, I really need to change? Making sure that you're taking us on a journey with him kind of making choices. I'll talk about that towards the end as well. I did never think to marry. So this moment is actually a big thing for him, because the whole way through so far in this play, he's been saying, I would never get married and I would definitely never marry her. And it's kind of the lady doth protest too much a bit, because he's always like, oh, I would never marry her. Like, okay. Why do you keep mentioning it then? But in this moment, he's having to process, oh, well, maybe I will marry. Maybe I will marry her. So this is when he first is thinking, okay, what's the next step, right? Not just like, oh, I like her, but like, okay, well, then marriage is the next thing. Very much of the time. So then he's starting to think, well, what's the next step? I must not seem proud. Happy are they that hear their detractions and can put them to mending. So basically, I shouldn't be a jerk about this. It is good for people, good for you if you can recognize your own faults or be told your own faults, your detractions, and then put them to mending, fix them, right? Do something about it, change yourself. That will make you a good person and a happy person. Then he starts to think about her and he's kind of listing like how great she is based on the stuff that they've just said. So make sure you look at the scene before, the lead up to it, and understand it, and maybe watch some productions of it. They say the lady is fair, like beautiful and attractive, all those kinds of things. 'Tis a truth, I can bear them witness. So he's reflecting on what they're saying, going, yeah, I agree. And virtuous, 'tis so, I cannot reprove it. So she's honest, she hasn't been hooking up with lots of guys. And wise, but for loving me. Little gag there, like, you know, she's actually quite a smart person, except for the fact that she likes me. By my troth means truth, but it's just kind of one of those things that people say in the old days. It kind of means like for sure, or like seriously. By my troth, it is no addition to her wit, so it doesn't really necessarily make her smarter or wiser, nor a great argument of her folly. It doesn't also mean anything bad about her, that she likes me, is what he's talking about. Because I will be horribly in love with her. He's kind of leading us into that decision there. It's like, oh, it's not so bad that she likes me. That links to the bit before, right? He's talking about, well, she's a smart woman apart from the fact that she likes me. But the fact that she likes me doesn't really say anything bad about her necessarily, because, you know why? Because I'm gonna like her back. And that's usually quite a big moment. The word choice is funny. It's meant to be funny. I will be horribly in love with her. He means it in a sincere way, but it is kind of a terrible thing. Like, how horrible is this gonna be, man? So there's humor in there that you can play with. The audience is aware of the joke, but you are not. You are serious about, yeah, I'm gonna do this. I may chance have some odd quirks and remnants of wit broken on me because I have railed so long against marriage. Let me break that down for you. There might be a few jokes made about me and to me because I have railed is like kind of like ranting. He's been like venting about how rubbish marriage is. I've railed so long against marriage. I've been talking about how stupid marriage is this whole time. But doth not the appetite alter? Like, don't people change their minds and your taste buds change? You know, your desires, the interests that you have change. And then he gives the example of a man loves the meat in his youth that he cannot endure in his age. So that's your kind of your taste buds changing, like your appetite, your desires. Like, I liked that stuff when I was younger. And it can be, you know, it could be meat, could be anything. Like, I just used to like eating this and now I don't like it when I'm old. You know, I'm older and wiser now. Shall quips and sentences and these paper bullets of the brain awe a man from the career of his humor? I'll break this down bit by bit because that's quite a wordy thing to say. Quips and sentences, kind of these jokes that he's talking about. Paper bullets of the brain, just like little lines, little jokes, little smart, witty comments from people. Or a man being like kind of convince him otherwise from the career of his humor. And career being kind of like, you know, if you're saying something like someone's careering down the road, like it's like the direction and the drive of his humor, and humor being like the thing that they want, the thing that they're kind of in the mood for. So basically, am I going to be put off by just like sentences and stupid little things that people say when I'm really bent on going in that direction towards Beatrice? And then he reasons, his reasoning about this, no, the world must be peopled. Basically, like, we need to extend the population. I need to get married and have kids. This is how this all works. It's the natural order of things. And again, this tends to be quite a big moment where he's making a decision. He's really convincing us. For sure, this needs to happen. What a goofball. When I said I would die a bachelor, I did not think I should live till I were married. So hopefully that is fairly self-explanatory. Like, he's been talking about this the whole time. He's literally said, I'm going to die unmarried. And he's like, well, I just didn't think I'd live this long. Now you have the little bit at the end, which you can include. Sometimes it's a nice little ending, little outro there. Here comes Beatrice. By this day, she's a fair lady. By this day is another one of those things like by my troth. It's like, for sure. Like, seriously, she's a hot woman. He's having a moment of like, oh, actually she's pretty good looking. I do spy some marks of love in her. And that's usually a gag as well, because it basically saying like, oh, I do think I can see a little bit of like the attraction that she has to me. And usually at that moment she's like stomping in because she's been sent to go like come and have some dinner, and she's usually like so that is usually a gag as well. So there's things that you can play on there. Okay, so let me give you some quick tips to make this awesome. Firstly, as I mentioned before, this is a soliloquy, so we really need to go on the journey of him kind of realizing stuff and making decisions. I have a whole video on that. Highly recommend you watch that one. Secondly, something that I love to play with in terms of comedy is this idea of what's the game? I find this a really great concept. It's something I learned from being taught sketch comedy, actually. There's always this kind of game at play. There's a little kind of comedic device at play, and it will usually be expanded on as we go through. In my opinion, the game here, it's that dramatic irony. The fact that the audience knows what's going on and Benedick doesn't, and he's just realizing everything. And as he says stuff, we're kind of like, man, this guy he's so full of himself in so many ways, apart from his arrogance, but also like he really believes that this is actually happening. He has been completely fooled. So that is the game here. He's been fooled. So really invest in like, well, how much can I play that up? The fact that he is so believing that this is really happening. That is funny in itself. So invest, take it seriously as a character. Yes, the world must be peopled. That's where the comedy lies. And make sure you know where the jokes are. Hopefully that line by line breakdown kind of helped you out in realizing what actually is a joke, but you can also play on things more. Shakespeare's comedy has room to play, and I don't want you to be afraid about getting it right or breaking the rules or anything like that. Look for humor. This guy is arrogant. He's been completely fooled. And you also might be able to find some physical surroundings. Like, there are often things where, like, you know, he tries to sit down, but he misses his chair or whatever because he's just so taken in this situation. So really play around and look for the humor. It is supposed to be funny. Sometimes people say don't watch productions of the monologue that you're working on, but in the case of Shakespeare, it usually is actually really helpful to watch productions to get ideas, and you are allowed to steal the ideas and make them your own. Steal like an artist, right? Like, don't just copy it, but be like, oh, well, how could I do this my way? Watch as many productions as possible to get all those ideas from different places and see what aligns in your version of Benedick. How arrogant is he? How much does he really feel bad for Beatrice, or how much is this just kind of like an ego game? Make your choices about who this guy is, right? Because that's going to really color everything you do. So make sure he has kind of a point of view on the world. And finally, use the space. As I mentioned, you might be able to find some physical gags, but also you really do need to engage with the audience. And that soliloquy video will really help you out with understanding that. But mostly just get in the space, move around, imagine where you are. Where is your Much Ado About Nothing set? Where is he? They're usually outside. Are there chairs? Are there birds? You know, is there a fountain? What are you gonna do, right? So have a bit of fun with this and really get detailed in your location. Using the space also gets your body involved, which is really great for this heightened material. So I'm gonna link on screen a video about heightened because you need to understand what that means and why you need to get that energy in your body. And I'm also gonna link on screen the video about soliloquy. So you can just click on one of them now and learn a little bit more. It's only gonna take you like 10 minutes. You're doing so well. See you in the next video.